I don't know exactly when things started going south with Sandy. Maybe it was when we moved into my grandmother's house after the fire, or maybe it had been happening for a while and I was too blind to see it. But something was off. She used to be affectionate, always calling me babe, sending me random texts during the day, touching me whenever she passed by. But now she barely looked at me. If I tried to hold her hand, she'd find a way to pull away like she was just adjusting herself. I told myself she was just stressed. Losing our house, living with family, it was hard on both of us. But then little things started piling up. Like her phone. Sandy used to leave it lying around, face up, volume on. Now it was always face down, always on silent. And when she got a message, she'd glance at it, smile to herself, and then put it away without saying a word. I told myself, don't be that guy. The paranoid guy. But then the late nights started. She'd go to run errands, after work and come home too, sometimes 3 hours later. When I asked why it took so long, she'd roll her eyes. You want a minute-by-minute breakdown of my grocery run? It wasn't just that, though. The way she laughed at her phone, the way she barely touched me anymore, something was wrong. Then came the first lie. One night, she told me she was going out with her friend Ashley for drinks. I had no reason not to believe her, but I still had this gnawing feeling. Around 10 p.m., I texted Ashley. Hey, just checking in. Hope you guys are having fun. She replied instantly. Fun? Haha, I haven't seen Sandy in weeks. I stared at my phone, heart pounding. I waited up for her that night. When she walked in, she acted all casual, kicking off her shoes and tossing her bag on the couch. So how was Ashley? I asked. She froze for half a second, so quick I almost missed it, before forcing a smile. Good. We just had some wine and caught up. Lie. I felt something inside me crack. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted more. I needed more. And I was about to get it. After that night, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. She lied straight to my face about seeing Ashley. If she could lie about that, what else was she hiding? I didn't turn into some crazy spy husband overnight, but I started doing little things. Like noticing her schedule, who she talked to, how she acted when she thought I wasn't looking. And then, 3 days later, I got my first real proof. She was in the shower, and her phone was on the dresser. Normally, she had it glued to her, but for whatever reason, she left it behind. And the screen lit up. A text. From T. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. I just stood there, staring at the screen, my stomach twisting. Then another message. Wish I could see you tonight, but I'll wait. It's worth it. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I had two choices. Check the phone or put it down and pretend I saw nothing. I grabbed it. Of course, it was locked. But I noticed something. The notifications were set to preview the texts. I scrolled down. More messages from T. When are you telling him? I don't like sneaking around. I miss you. I felt like the air got knocked out of me. I was gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Then I heard the shower stop. I put the phone back exactly where it was and walked out of the room before she could see me. I needed a plan. I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not until I knew everything. I wanted to explode. My hands were shaking. My jaw was clenched so tight it hurt. But I forced myself to calm down. I couldn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. If she was cheating, I wasn't about to give her an easy way out with some fake excuse. No, I wanted her to have nowhere to run when the truth finally came out. So I played it cool. When she walked into the bedroom wrapped in a towel, drying her hair like nothing was wrong, I just smiled. Hey, babe. She smiled back. Hey. That was the moment I knew. If she could look me in the eye and act normal after getting those texts, she had been lying to me for a long, long time. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those messages. Who was T? How long had this been going on? The next morning, I made up an excuse about needing my car checked and took it to a mechanic across town. Not because my car needed work, but because I wanted an Uber receipt. I told Sandy I'd be home late. Then I doubled back and parked a few streets away from our house. I waited. And at 7:42 p.m., my patience paid off. A car pulled up. Not an Uber. Not Ashley. Some guy. Tall. Dark hair. Confident stride. He walked up to my house like he belonged there. And when Sandy opened the door, she smiled bigger than I'd seen in months and pulled him inside. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. But I didn't move. Not yet. Because I wasn't just going to catch them. I was going to make her regret every single lie. I stood there in the dark, watching them walk into my house, my stomach a twisted knot of rage and disbelief. I could barely breathe, but I told myself I had to stay calm. If I stormed in there, yelling and throwing accusations, I'd give her an easy out. She'd lie her way out of it, and I'd be left with nothing. So, I waited. I stayed hidden down the street, watching her car parked in the driveway, knowing what was happening behind that door. I had seen this before, in movies, in TV shows. But none of that mattered. This wasn't some fictional story. This was my life. The guy stayed for over an hour. I knew he wasn't just picking something up. Sandy didn't invite people over like that unless they were close. I kept telling myself I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Finally, the car pulled out of the driveway and disappeared around the corner. My mind raced. It was time. I didn't go straight home, though. I needed to buy myself a little more time. I stopped by a gas station, grabbed a pack of gum, and walked around the block for a bit. I wasn't ready to face her yet. But I knew I couldn't wait forever. I called a buddy of mine, someone I trusted with everything. I needed to vent, but more importantly, I needed someone to hold me together. "You good, man?" he asked after I explained the situation in as few words as possible. "No. I don't know if I ever will be," I muttered. I could hear the tremor in my voice, but I didn't care. She's in there right now, playing me for a fool, and I have no idea what to do next. "Are you sure?" he asked, a slight edge to his voice. "Are you sure she's really cheating? Maybe it's nothing." I let out a frustrated breath. Man, I saw the guy. He just left. And the texts. I saw them. She's not even trying to hide it anymore. I know, man. You gotta think about what happens after. Are you ready for that? To lose her. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I hadn't really thought about it. Not in full. But as soon as he said it, it sunk in. Everything I had with her, everything we built. Could it really be over? I don't know if I have a choice. I just want the truth. I want her to admit it. But I don't know if she'll do that without me putting the pressure on. "You'll know when it's time," he said. "Just don't lose yourself in this." I ended the call and sat in my car for a few minutes, my hands gripping the steering wheel. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. I wasn't going to let her play me. So I drove home. My heart was hammering in my chest, and my mind was racing with 100 thoughts at once. When I pulled into the driveway, I didn't see her car. She was probably at the store or in the shower, or maybe just hiding out in the bedroom, too nervous to face me after what she'd just done. I parked and took a deep breath. The front door was unlocked. That's how she always left it, careless as usual, like she never thought I'd notice. I walked in slowly, trying to collect myself. But when I stepped into the house, I couldn't find her. I checked the kitchen, the living room, even the bathroom. Nothing. I heard the faint sound of her voice, coming from upstairs. My feet felt heavy as I made my way to the stairs, the adrenaline in my system spiking with every step. I was so close. When I reached the bedroom door, I froze. She was on the phone, and her tone was soft, but I could still hear enough to make out the conversation. "I told you to wait. I'm not ready to tell him yet. I still have to make him trust me again." I didn't even need to hear more. The rest was just her trying to justify whatever mess she was in. I didn't give her the satisfaction of hearing more. I walked right into the room and slammed the door behind me. Her head snapped up, her face pale when she saw me standing there. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Who was that?" I asked, my voice cold, even though every part of me wanted to scream. She stood up quickly, her eyes darting to the phone in her hand. "What are you talking about?" I stepped closer. "Don't lie to me, Sandy. I know about the guy. The guy you've been sneaking around with. The texts. The phone calls." Her eyes widened, and she tried to cover it up, but there was no use. The truth was already spilling out, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. I shook my head. "Stop. I'm not playing this game anymore. I saw the texts. I saw him leave. You don't have to keep lying to me." Her face changed in an instant, her eyes narrowed, her posture stiffened. "I don't have to explain anything to you," she snapped. "This is none of your business." I was taken aback. I wasn't expecting her to be so defensive, so cold. "Really? After everything? After I trusted you? You're just going to throw it in my face?" She turned away from me, her voice suddenly dripping with venom. "You never understood me, never listened to what I wanted. I'm not some prize for you to win. I'm my own person. And I didn't ask for you to keep me on a leash." I felt my stomach churn, the betrayal settling deeper into my chest. "You're going to make this about me? You've been cheating on me for who knows how long, and I'm the one at fault." She crossed her arms, her eyes flashing with anger. "You were always so focused on your needs, your career, your friends. You didn't even notice that I was falling apart." I took a step back, my mind reeling. "So, that's your excuse? You go behind my back with someone else because you weren't happy? You couldn't just talk to me? Really?" Sandy's silence was almost deafening. She didn't know how to respond, and I could see it. She was cornered, and for the first time in a long time, I was in control. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty. Silence hung between us. The kind of silence that feels heavier than words. Sandy stood there, arms crossed, chin lifted like she was daring me to keep pushing. Like I was the one who owed her an explanation. It was almost laughable. But I wasn't laughing. I was waiting. Waiting for her to say something that made any sense. Waiting for her to give me a reason, any reason, to believe she wasn't the complete liar I already knew she was. Instead, she sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes. "You're blowing this way out of proportion," she said, like I had just accused her of stealing the last slice of pizza. I let out a hollow laugh. "Am I?" Because from where I'm standing, I caught my wife sneaking around with another guy, and now she's trying to make me feel bad about it. Sandy's jaw clenched, and she ran a hand through her hair, suddenly looking annoyed. "It's not like that." I stared at her. "Then what is it like?" She hesitated. Right there. Right there. That half-second of hesitation told me everything. She was scrambling, trying to think of a lie I'd believe. Finally, she spoke. "He's just a friend." I actually laughed at that one. A bitter, humorless laugh. "Oh yeah." I crossed my arms. "What kind of friend sends you texts like last night was amazing and I wish I could see you again?" Her face paled. She wasn't expecting that. "You," she swallowed, trying to recover. "You went through my phone?" "Yeah," I said bluntly. "And guess what? I saw a whole lot of things you probably wish I didn't." Her eyes darkened, and suddenly, she wasn't pale anymore. She was pissed. "You had no right to do that," she snapped. "That's my privacy." I took a slow step forward, lowering my voice. "And I thought our marriage was private. But apparently, I was wrong." She had nothing. Nothing but anger, because she knew she was caught. I could see the gears turning in her head. She wanted to flip this on me. Make it about my trust issues, about how I had invaded her space. But it wasn't working. Not this time. So she changed tactics. Her face softened. She sighed, shaking her head. Listen, she reached for my hand, but I pulled away before she could touch me. I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Panic? Regret? Okay, she exhaled. I'll be honest. I waited. He's just someone I talk to, she said, her voice softer now. It's not what you think. We've just been hanging out. He listens to me. I don't know, it just happened. But I swear, nothing serious happened. I tilted my head. Nothing serious? She nodded quickly, probably thinking she was off the hook. I pulled out my phone and opened my camera roll. I had taken a picture of her texts before she could delete them. I turned the screen toward her. Then explain this. Her face went completely still. I watched as her eyes scanned the messages I had saved, every single disgusting, cheating message between her and T. She knew there was no coming back from this. And that's when she said the last lie she ever told me. That's not real. I blinked. Excuse me. She actually had the nerve to laugh. Come on, you really think that's real? You must have edited that or something. I would never say that. I stared at her in complete disbelief. She would rather accuse me of faking evidence than admit the truth. That's when it hit me. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't even nervous. She was just pissed that she got caught. And suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and took a deep breath. You know what? I said calmly. You're right. She blinked. Ah. I smiled. A real, genuine smile. You're right, I repeated. Maybe I did blow this out of proportion. Maybe I did overreact. I saw her eyes light up, just a little. Like she thought she had won. I turned toward the bedroom door. I just need some air, I said over my shoulder. We'll talk later. And then I walked out, closing the door behind me. But here's the thing, I wasn't coming back. I walked out of that room and didn't look back. I could hear Sandy mumbling to herself, pacing like she was planning her next move, because that's all this was to her. A game. A situation she thought she could control. Not anymore. I needed to be smart. I needed to hit her where it hurt. If I just packed my bags and left, she'd spin the story however she wanted. I couldn't give her that chance. So I set up my plan. First, I called my buddy, the same one I had vented to earlier. It's worse than I thought, I told him. I need a place to crash for a few days. No problem, man. Just come over whenever. Step 1. Secure an escape route. Done. Step 2. Gather proof. I wasn't just going to walk away. I wanted everything in my hands when I left. Screenshots. Call logs. Everything. If she ever tried to lie or make me look like the bad guy, I wanted to have undeniable proof that she was the one who threw this marriage away. So while she was still in the bedroom, probably rehearsing some new excuse, I went to the living room, grabbed my laptop, and started digging. And what I found? It was worse than I imagined. The evidence I needed. I opened our shared phone plan account. If she was sneaking around, there would be call logs. And sure enough, there it was. Teeb had been calling her every single night for the last 2 months. Even when she told me she was staying late at work. Even when she said she was going to bed early. The last call? An hour before I caught her in the bedroom. I took screenshots of everything. Then I went into our joint bank account. Not because I wanted her money. I just wanted to see if she had been spending money on him. And oh, she had. Dinners. Hotel stays. A freaking weekend spa retreat. All while telling me we needed to save money. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. She wasn't just lying. She was living an entirely separate life right under my nose. I saved all the receipts. Screenshotted every transaction. Every suspicious location. Every deleted call log I could recover. Step 2. Proof secured. Done. Step 3. The perfect goodbye. I could have confronted her that night, but what would be the point? I had already heard her last lie. Nothing she said would make a difference now. So I set the final part of my plan in motion. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to make sure she felt it. I packed my things quietly, grabbing only what I needed. My essentials, my important documents, my laptop with all the evidence. I didn't touch her stuff. Didn't break anything. Didn't make a mess. I wanted her to walk into the house and feel my absence. Before I left, I did one last thing. I opened her laptop, pulled up one of the texts from T, and I set it as her screensaver. A little reminder for her, in case she ever tried to pretend this didn't happen. Then I walked out, got in my car, and drove off. The aftermath. The call that changed everything. I expected her to call me that night. Maybe cry. Maybe beg. Maybe try one last pathetic attempt to manipulate me. But she didn't. Instead, I got a call the next morning. Not from her. From T's wife. When my phone rang the next morning, I almost ignored it. I figured it was Sandy, finally realizing I was gone. But when I saw the number, it wasn't hers. It was an unknown number. I hesitated before picking up. Hello. A woman's voice came through, steady but cold. Is this my name? I straightened up. Yeah, who's this? A pause. Then, my name is Rachel. I think my husband has been sleeping with your wife. I swear, my body went numb. T had a wife. I had spent the entire night thinking about Sandy's betrayal, but now I realized she wasn't just betraying me. She was helping another man betray his own wife. I gripped the phone tighter. Your husband. Is he? T, she said flatly. I went through his phone last night. I found messages. Your wife's name came up a lot. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. Yeah, I muttered. I caught them too. Silence. Then she let out a breath. So it's true. I don't know what I expected from her. Maybe crying. Maybe yelling. But instead, her voice was eerily calm. I want to meet, she said. I hesitated. Meet? Yes, she said. You have proof. I have proof. And I think we can help each other. This was turning into something way bigger than I expected. But I wasn't going to say no. So I agreed. The meeting that changed everything. We met at a quiet little diner. I got there first, sitting in a booth, my leg bouncing under the table. My head was still spinning. A few minutes later, she walked in. Rachel was not what I expected. She was composed. Not a single tear, no signs of anger, just pure, calculated determination. She sat across from me, set her phone down, and folded her hands. You have something for me? She asked. I nodded and pulled out my laptop. I had everything organized, screenshots, transactions, call logs. I turned it toward her, and she scrolled through without a single expression on her face. After a minute, she slid her phone toward me. Here's what I found on his end, she said. I picked it up and started reading. Their messages were disgusting. Romantic, secretive. Planned hotel meetups. Conversations about how hard it was to sneak around. Sandy had even sent pictures, not explicit, but flirty enough to make my blood boil. And then I saw it. A message from T to Sandy. He's too stupid to figure it out. Just keep playing along until we can make our move. I stared at the screen, my heartbeat hammering. Who's he talking about? Rachel exhaled sharply. You. I felt my stomach drop. What? She nodded. I read through more of their messages. T was encouraging your wife to leave you, but not just leave you. He wanted her to take as much as possible before she did. I gripped the table, my knuckles turning white. So this wasn't just an affair, I muttered. They were planning something. Rachel nodded. And that's why I'm divorcing him. She leaned in. And if you're smart, you'll do the same. The final betrayal. That night, I went back to my friend's place, sat down, and just processed everything. I had spent the last few days thinking my wife had just made a mistake, that she had just fallen for someone else. But no. She was playing me. She was getting ready to walk away with everything, and I would have been too blind to stop her. I thought I had seen the last of her lies. But there was one more betrayal left. Because the next morning, I got served divorce papers, filed by Sandy, and she was demanding half of everything. I stared at the divorce papers in my hands, my pulse pounding. Sandy wasn't just leaving me, she was trying to take me for everything I had. Half the assets, spousal support, even a cut of my savings that I had built long before we even got married. The audacity, the sheer, unbelievable audacity. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. I called my buddy. She actually did it, I said through gritted teeth. She filed. Yeah. And she wants everything. He let out a low whistle. She's got some nerve. Oh, it gets worse, I muttered, flipping through the paperwork. She's claiming irreconcilable differences. But get this, she wrote that I was the one who emotionally neglected her. I actually laughed out loud. She cheated on me, plotted against me. And now I'm the bad guy. She's trying to play the victim, he said. She probably thinks you'll cave. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. Not a chance. Because while she thought she had all the power, she had no idea what was coming next. The lawyer and the counterattack. The next morning, I walked into the best divorce attorney's office in town. I sat down, laid out everything, the texts, the call logs, the receipts. Then I showed him Rachel's proof, including the messages about how they were plotting against me. The lawyer leaned back in his chair, nodding. This is solid. So what are my options? I asked. He smirked. Oh, we're going to destroy her case. Step 1. Freezing the assets. First, we made sure Sandy couldn't touch my money. I immediately closed our joint account and transferred my savings into a separate account that she had no legal access to. The lawyer assured me that since I had proof of her infidelity and financial deception, she had no right to my personal savings. So if she thought she was getting a big payday, she was dead wrong. Step 2. The exposure. Then, we got to work on blowing up her lies. Rachel and I coordinated. Since her husband, T, was also trying to play innocent, she gathered every single receipt, screenshot, and text message. We made sure everyone saw the truth. Sandy's family? They got an email. Her close friends? We sent them the screenshots. Even her job? Well, let's just say her boss wasn't too happy when he found out she had been having business trips on company time. I wasn't even done yet. Step 3. The ultimate trap. See, the thing about cheaters? They never stop lying. So, I set a trap. I texted Sandy 1 last time. We need to talk. Maybe we can settle this without the lawyers. She took the bait. She called me within minutes, her voice suddenly soft, like she hadn't just stabbed me in the back. I knew you'd come around, she said. Oh. I kept my tone casual. You really think we can work something out? Of course, she purred. I never wanted things to get nasty. We can figure this out together, right? Lies. Lies. More lies. I played along. All right. Let's meet tomorrow. Perfect, she said sweetly. She had no idea what was coming. The face-off. The next day, I met Sandy at a cafe. She was dressed up like she was going on a date, smiling at me like nothing had happened. I'm so glad you came, she said, sipping her coffee. I really think we can do this amicably. I leaned back in my chair. Amicably. I repeated. That's interesting. Because last I checked, you were sneaking around behind my back and trying to take half my assets. She flinched, but recovered quickly. Look, I know you're upset, but we were both unhappy. You have to admit, you weren't exactly the best husband. I laughed. Oh, that's rich. You cheated. And instead of owning up to it, you tried to screw me over. Sandy sighed dramatically. You're being emotional. No, I said, placing a folder on the table. I'm being prepared. She raised an eyebrow. What's that? I slid it toward her. She opened it, and her face went pale. Inside, every screenshot, every text, every transaction, all the proof. And the best part? The letter from my lawyer, stating that because of her infidelity and attempted financial deception, her divorce claims were completely invalid. She slammed the folder shut, her hands shaking. You were spying on me? I smirked. You were lying to me. She looked around like she was trapped, her mind racing for a way out. Then she switched tactics. She reached across the table, touching my hand lightly. Look, she said softly. I know we had problems, but maybe we can fix this? I stared at her. Are you serious? She nodded, her eyes big and fake. Maybe we don't have to go through with this. Maybe we can start over. Unbelievable. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't ashamed. She was just trying to save herself. I pulled my hand away. You already made your choice. She leaned back, her expression turning cold. So that's it. That's it, I said, standing up. And just so you know, you're getting nothing. I walked out without looking back. The aftermath. Sandy fought the divorce for a while, but in the end, she lost. She got nothing from me. Not a cent. Her reputation was in shambles. Everyone knew the truth. T's wife divorced him, too. And guess what? She took everything. And as for me, I walked away free. No more lies. No more manipulation. No more Sandy. And let me tell you, karma never tasted so sweet. It's been a year since the whole mess went down. And honestly, life has never been better. Sandy thought she could destroy me. Thought she could cheat, lie, and still walk away with half of everything. Instead, she lost everything. Sandy, the fall of a manipulator. After the divorce was finalized, Sandy tried to play the victim. She told everyone I had been controlling, emotionally unavailable, and paranoid. But people weren't stupid. Once the truth came out, she lost a lot of her social circle. Her closest friends, gone. Even some of her family turned against her. And her love life? Well, that's the best part. See, after Teeb got divorced, she thought they would finally be together. But guess what? He dumped her. Turns out, once his wife took everything and left him broke, he wasn't so charming anymore. Sandy had left me thinking she was upgrading to a better man. Now, she was stuck with nothing. No husband, no house, no money. And from what I've heard, she's still single, bouncing from job to job, struggling to stay afloat. Karma's a beautiful thing. T. The man who lost it all. As for T, his ex-wife wrecked him in court. She got full custody of their kids, their house, and most of his savings. The guy who once thought he could manipulate two people at the same time ended up alone, broke, and paying alimony. Last I heard, he moved in with his brother because he couldn't afford his own place anymore. Rachel, the real winner. Rachel, on the other hand, she came out on top. After divorcing T, she sold their house for a massive profit, moved to another city, and started fresh. We still keep in touch sometimes, and she's thriving. I remember something she told me after the dust settled. Sometimes, the trash takes itself out. She was right. And me? I'm living my best life. For the first time in years, I feel free. No more second-guessing myself. No more feeling like I'm not enough. No more wondering if the person I love is lying to my face. I got my own place. Started focusing on myself. Got back into my hobbies. Traveled. Made real friends. And love. Well, let's just say I met someone new. And this time, she actually respects me. So to anyone going through betrayal, let me tell you this, you will heal. It might not happen overnight, and it sure as hell won't be easy. But one day, you'll wake up, look around, and realize you won, and they lost. Because karma, it always delivers.